I was mentioning how the leading CEOs of AI companies are evangelizing and raising money on the incredible oncoming breakthroughs in scientific discovery that they say AI will deliver. Dario Amodi of Anthropic promised AI smarter than most Nobel Prize winners before the end of this decade. Sam Altman said in his recent article on his website, we're on the verge of the intelligence age powered by superintelligence that may be just a few thousand days away, which is a little bit of a broad time frame. I mean, I might be a Nobel Prize winner in a few thousand days. But anyway, I'm very curious what you make of this optimism.
Well, they're good signs. The LLM, the ChatGPT, start being like humans, maybe say stupid things, which is a good thing. I think what was wrong with computers before is that they were always right. So clearly had nothing to do with. I think a good sign of creativity is being, I was in the wrong panel. I was there. So why don't they call me today? So I take this as a sign of creativity. So doing the stupid things is a good sign. So of course things are happening. There's no doubt. I don't believe the hype a minute. Let me put it straight. Why? Because all my life I've been through the hype of what is coming. I think it's great what is coming, but I think if one think about the present is much more interesting than things about the future, because the future is always surprising in one sense. Nobody expected, you all know the list of things that were not expected. But if you think for a moment, the list of things that were expected is much larger, much bigger, it didn't come. I talked yesterday morning, and I remember I said I'm a kid of the 60s. There was the kind of future we expect in the 60s is far, far more AI than what we have today by very far. I mean, the futuristic HAL 9000 of Kubrick was set in 2001. We're not there by very far. So I don't believe I think it's super interesting what is happening, but I think there is a mixture of money, business interests, confusion about what is possible and what is near and what is far.
Okay, well, no, this is great. This is my version here of eliciting opening statements from you all. So Max, you're working within Alphabet. Who knows, maybe you're our resident optimist here, but Sam Altman is promising an era of astounding triumphs when it comes to AI and science. Are you as maybe dubious as Carlo is, or do you believe it? Do you believe the hype?
I'm a lot more optimistic here. I think there's the LLM space where these models are getting better and better, and we're seeing deeper and deeper applications in the sense of things looking more and more like reasoning. And I won't comment on whether these things reason or not. That's too hot. I do think these models will continue to progress. But even today, outside of LLMs, there's some very, very powerful models. And remember, science is it's very complicated. Loop quantum gravity, I actually don't know what this means. But I imagine the way that you would represent this might not even be that native to our LLMs of today. And if you think about the sort of experiments that are happening in CERN where you're smashing particles together and creating terabytes of data of these scattering patterns, you can't just tokenize these things and then feed it into ChatGPT or Gemini and expect to get useful insights out. But you can create these specialized architectures, these models that really do work for these specific scientific questions and data types. We see this day to day with things like AlphaFold and really incorporating specific biological data. And this is not small scale, this is still large scale. So these models are very powerful, and crucially, we see that they generalize. We can train them on one part of the space and then apply them to something completely new.
Okay, Surya, let me put the question to you, and I want to know if you believe the hype, but also, Max was mentioning, the pace of novel insights, and it makes me wonder, how do we if AI is accelerating progress, how are we measuring it in the number of papers and the number of patents? And do you think we'll look back and see this as an age of increased innovation?
Yeah, I would say I'm probably the centrist on this panel.
You're sitting in the right spot.
Yeah, it's geographically and semantically, but I don't believe the hype about like we'll have super intelligence in 1,000 or a few thousand days. I don't believe any of that stuff. But you can't deny that there's been incredible progress in specific domains. Nobody would have predicted that LLMs can do what they did 3 years ago. None of us, myself included. So there's progress, but one should have a steely-eyed view as to their fragilities and what they can and cannot do. We need to understand them better. In the context of neuroscience, they're definitely helping us make progress. We can build in silico models of the brain that are quite accurate, and then we can rapidly do in silico experiments on an in silico model in ways that are much faster, much cheaper than actually doing more experiments on actual brains. We can extract testable hypotheses and then test them in now actual experiments. But so there's this closed loop between the real world and an in silico model of it that we have to go round and round that loop, but we can make many cycles around the in silico model to extract insights and then test our insights in the actual model. So this interface between AIs and the physical world, it's something that we have to explore a lot more. I think the other thing that AI and creativity does for us is it really asks us to question the very nature of human creativity itself. Maybe we are not as creative or as special as we thought we were. And we really need to understand how these AI systems are doing their creativity. So some things we've been working on are sort of an analytic theory of how diffusion models are creative. And for simple data sets, we can actually understand it. They're just combining training points in different patches of the image and putting them together to get a new sample. We have an analytic theory that can predict the specific samples of simple diffusion models and simple data sets. So as we more deeply understand the creativity of these systems, we'll more deeply understand what creativity is and where human creativity sits and how impressed we should be with both ourselves and with AI.
I'm reminded of The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, where they develop this super intelligent computer, Deep Thought. It labors away for millennia, and then they go ask it for the meaning of life, the universe, and everything, and it comes back with nonsense 42 because they don't understand the question. So is that the future, that this thing is sort of an alien intelligence that we won't understand, or do you see? Are you optimistic? Do you see a practical impact in the way that it's changing the pace of scientific discovery and creativity?
It's a great question. I think my feeling is I don't feel qualified to answer the question of whether the AIs will be able to create their own forms of novel discovery, where there's a genuinely new scientific insight that is kind of almost autonomously generated by the software itself. You guys are better equipped to answer that question than I am. But I think in terms of the practical side of it, what I've been really focusing on with the team at NotebookLM is really just thinking about ways in which we can today, with the tools that we have available right now, augment people's individual humans or teams, basically their memories, the kinds of creative associations that they can make, helping them gather insights through large amounts of information like that.
Why don't you spend a minute just describing NotebookLM, because maybe not everybody's familiar with it.
Sure. So basically what Notebook began with is, I'm an old kind of tool for thought nerd, and have been obsessed with using software to kind of help me write my books and research my books and remind me of things that I've long forgotten. And about 2.5 years ago, Google invited me to come and help kind of start up a team to build this dream tool that I've been chasing my entire life, basically for the last 25 years, using language models at its foundation. And so what NotebookLM does is basically you begin everything by uploading the documents and the sources that are important to the work that you are doing, whatever that is, whether it's your own notes, whether it's your own reading history, whether it's books you've written in the past, articles you're working on or inspired by. And then at that point, the model is grounded in in the information that you've shared and uploaded. And so you can ask complex questions, you get very nuanced answers that are largely hallucination-free because they're grounded in these sources. They have citations, so you can click on inline a link that will take you back to the original passage from the document that shows you where the model got that idea. And so one example of this is, like, I have been collecting quotes from books that I've read digitally for the last 20 or 25 years. I've got 8,000 quotes from books that I've read as part of my research. It's like 3 million words of quotes. And I have a single notebook where I've stored all of those quotes, and I have about half of the books that I've written. So it's something like, kind of 4 million words of information. It's a real record of all the ideas that influenced me and some of the ideas that I actually wrote. And now I can just be engaged in dialogue with this whole history of my thinking, spanning like 20 years, and it's constantly reminding me of things, bringing up connections, making new leaps of association by weaving together all these different patterns. No computer in the world could do that 2 years ago. And now it's just like a free web app. And so to me, that like suggests that, you know, we are seeing real material progress here, at least in helping us think.